Hey guys, Yasa here for everybodyasclasses.com. Today's video, I'm going to be focusing on the camel walk, and I'm going to talk about the common mistakes that a lot of beginners make when they're learning the camel walk. So the camel walk, for those of you who haven't learned it yet, it's this one. So it's a side walking, or not necessarily side, just a walking, or it could be done in the same spot. Slow andulation. The focus is mostly on the hips and the belly. And if you have watched the video when I taught you guys how to do the camel walk, I did a whole breakdown, and I'll just review it very quickly here with you so we can talk about the mistakes. But go back to that video if you want, take a little bit longer explanation as to how to do, the basic mechanic work of the camel. So we have one foot in front of the other, and then what we're doing is we're rocking back and forth. So rock forward, pushing the hip forward, and then step back, and then push the hip back. Rock forward, lift the back foot, push the hip forward, step back, bend the knee and lift the foot in the fret, and then push back. So these are just a basic step, the rocking step, to kind of get an idea of how we switch the weight from the back to the front. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have to do the same exact steps or do them as big as I'm showing it to you. I'm exaggerating, so I want you guys to see them. But you can make them smaller. So like when you're lifting, you don't have to lift as high as I was going, of course. You can just lift just a little bit, and then bend the knee just a little bit, okay? Now what I want you to imagine here, what's going on with the hips. So that was the footwork, but what's going on with the hips is, as I said, we let the hips go forward, and then I want you to imagine that there's a circle that goes down and up, goes through your belly button, comes back in the back, and then goes down again, okay? So down, up, and in. So the circle is like this. It's like perpendicular to the floor, okay? But it goes through your belly, if I want you to imagine going through your belly. So when you push forward and then you step back, you rock back, that's when you tuck. And tuck focusing only on the lower abs here, okay? And then release, okay? So push forward, tuck, release, push forward, tuck, release, push forward, tuck, release, okay? And then of course it does take a lot of practice, and then you can travel with it as well. Now let's talk about the mistakes, the common mistakes that people make when they're learning the camel walk. Well, the first thing is, which I see to be the biggest mistake, is there's not much switching of weight from the front to the back. Like I see people, because here's the first thing, when I said you guys gotta step back and then lift the back and then step back, lift the front, you don't have to do that if you're advanced. If you got it, you don't have to do it. But if you didn't, I really want you to do it, because it will give you a feel of how you can switch the weight from the front to the back. Because that's the biggest mistake everybody makes, is there is no weight switching back front. So of course it's not gonna happen. And that's key. If you can't do that, it's not going to happen. You're never going to be able to do a camel walk, okay? So make sure that when you go to the front, you really lift that back foot, okay? But the biggest mistake I tend to see is actually the second step, which is taking a step back. A lot of people keep the front foot right here. And I think they do that for a specific reason, because they want to not lose their balance. But because it only takes a second to tuck in, you're not going to lose your balance. So don't worry too much about that. And instead of worrying about losing your balance, try to worry more about doing that same move faster. That's what I want you to try to worry about, okay? So push forward, and as you go back, make sure you definitely lift this foot off the floor. Even if you do a big lift in the beginning just to kind of get a feel for it, go for it, because it's really going to help you tuck. Without lifting, you're not going to be able to tuck very well, okay? Even if it's a tiny little lift motion that just helps you bend the knee, it's important to do that, okay? And make sure really that you feel your weight go into the back, and then in the first part, make sure to feel that your weight is going forward, okay? So that's the first mistake I see a lot, is there's not much switching of weight between the front and the back, and people always tend to keep both their feet down when they're beginners for balance, but try not to do that, okay? Second mistake I see a lot is people don't really know what they're trying to do with the hips. Like, they know that they're supposed to tuck, but if you keep in mind, it's not just a tuck, it's actually a full circle that we're doing by going down, up, and back, and then down, up, and back. If you keep that circle idea in mind, where the circle is actually, as I said, perpendicular to the floor, going down, coming up, in, back, down, coming up. If you keep that idea in mind, not necessarily that it's just going to make you do the tuck really well, but also it's going to make you keep going constantly, instead of just that camel that looks like this, you know, like so abrupt. A camel is a continuous, slow undulation move, okay? So if you imagine it as a circle, it's going to help you keep going, okay? You're not going to stop it. If you think about it as just tuck, you're going to stop. And then you're going to get those abrupt movements in your camel, which that's not what we want. So keep that circle idea in mind. So I'm circling in, down, circle, back, down, in, back, down, in, back, down, and then keep it going, okay? And then that leads us, of course, to the other mistake that I see a lot, which is people don't keep the same speed all the time. So they might go like slow in the front, but then fast in the back, or vice versa. You gotta stay the same speed all the time. It's a nice, slow undulation, okay? It's gotta look like that all the time, the same speed from start to finish. Okay, and again, going back to that same circle idea, if you keep the circle in mind, you're more likely to do it at the same speed because you know that you're circling. Instead of thinking, oh, tuck, you know, tuck is a very abrupt motion, and that what happens is it makes you go slow in the front and then fast here, and then it just doesn't look right, okay? So make sure you maintain your speed all the time. Now, when it comes to traveling, one of the mistakes that I see a lot is people worrying too much about which foot they should travel with. I would say this honestly, I think everybody has one side that it's easier to travel on than the other, so don't worry about trying to even out both sides. I mean, you do it for practice, but if you just want to dance, you should not be worried about it too much, okay? So for me, for example, when I travel, I always like to lead with my left. It just feels natural to me. So find the side that feels natural to you and stick with it all the time. And what I mean by all the time, stick with it whether you're traveling to the left or traveling to the right. It makes no difference, okay? If I'm traveling to the left, I'm going to lead with my left, which means that my left is going to be in the front and my right is going to be in the back, okay? And I'm going to stay on my toes here because I can travel easier and smoother with my toes instead of flat, okay? So here we go. I'm going to keep the front, left on the front, and then I'm going to travel. Let's say go side, 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 side. Now if I want to go to the other side, I don't have to switch the footwork. See, what's happening here is that you're switching to the foot that traveling with, it doesn't feel natural. And so what you have is this look where like on one side it looks smoother, on the other side it looks a little rocky because you're leading with a foot that doesn't feel natural. It's kind of like riding with your right hand when you're left-handed and vice versa. So lead with the same foot all the time and don't switch your feet as you travel. So if I'm going to the left, I'm going to keep it left, 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 left. I'm going to the right, I'm leading still with my left. Doesn't mean I can't do it the other way, but I do feel a little bit slower on the other side just because it doesn't feel natural to me. Now if you go into the left, you're going like a circle, you can go with the left. Doesn't mean if you want to go to the right, you have to switch. Okay? Again, when it comes to this one, there's no right or wrong. But I encourage you to stay with what feels natural. Okay? Because that is usually the best way to go. And then dance, as I said before, millions of times in previous videos, it has to feel natural. If it doesn't feel natural, you're obviously overdoing it, or you're exaggerating the move, or you're doing it with the wrong foot or something. You know, there's always something wrong when things don't feel natural. It has to feel natural to you. So instead of trying to fight it, trying to go with the wrong foot that's not even natural to you, like trying to force yourself to ride with your left hand when you're actually right-handed, don't bother with that. Stick with the foot that feels natural and stay with it all the time without even having to think about switching. Okay, so that's just a little trick when it comes to traveling. And I think those are the common mistakes, but if there is anything else I haven't mentioned to you guys, please feel free to ask me and I'll be happy to answer you. So hopefully this gives you some pointers to improve your camel walk, and I'll see you guys next time in the next video. freeballydanceclasses.com is our website. Bye!